Hello, so this is my video on how players are being guided using the environment and how my chosen franchise, Wally, has been incorporated into the architecture and the environment. So this is the room players begin in for the Whiteroom. This is the entire Whiteroom. It's a bit messy because obviously it's just a prototype, but this is where the player begins. We have flashing red lights here. This is sort of a door area that the player will have just come through. If it was a proper game, obviously it's just a prototype, but the flashing red is obviously indicative of some sort of issue, and it's the same with this spark, but I'll talk about that in a minute. The chosen franchise, Wally, has been incorporated into this particular segment of the level, or the Whiteroom, through the use of blue. Holograms in the Wally cinematic universe, blue is often used in the holograms, especially in areas outside of the main part of the axiom. I had to watch the short film Bernie, and the color blue came quite frequently, especially in concept art and color scripts as well, before the film was actually went into production, and which I talk about in my documentation. But yeah, so blue was used. It was originally green, but I found that blue was used more in the actual Wally universe, especially in the other games that have been released under the Wally franchise as well. You'll see there are no humans or any sign of human life here. This is because it's outside the main part of the Axiom ship, and typically, well, there are no humans outside the main part. It's usually machinery and autonomous bots. These are sort of examples of these autonomous bots. The red, obviously indicative of a problem. Red's often used when something goes wrong. It's a colour for that. It's also quite a striking colour, and the difference, this is the actual movable toy for the player, and these are lifts. When the player goes into this, a press C to interact pop-up in the UI shows up, so the red shows that these are out of use. The player can move this onto the lift and it goes up, but the player's guided to do this because of, well, the red button, the big red button, sort of universally known to be symbolic of go and press this big red button. And the pop-up is pretty obvious that this is the one you press because these are broken and there's no pop-up. This actually doesn't have any functionality. The player is able to see the control scheme and figure out that they need to pull this onto the lift and this would go up. Once they've got that, the player is then guided to here. This is slightly open, but as you can tell, well, these are particle systems that appear as sparks in the game when it's running. The player must put this, because the player cannot fit through that gap. It's not the right height. It doesn't really look like that right now, but trust me. So the player must put that there, and it would, this change, the toy changes height. I forgot to mention that, and you can push it up, and then the player can move on to this side of the room. Because it's only a prototype, it's quite difficult to incorporate the world of Wally, especially because it's set outside the main part of the axiom. But the blue, which is quite a prominent feature in the film, and the largely autonomous environment seeks to perpetuate this. So this is the second room. This was a little more easier to do than the first one. Black and yellow chevrons are seen along, they run into here as well. Outside the main part of the ship again, that's quite a prominent feature. running along the floor along with railway tracks, but we didn't include that. It was the black and yellow chevrons. They're even seen on robots. They're quite a big feature. I also discussed this in my playtesting documentation. And they also function not only to incorporate that cinematic universe lore, but it also guides the player into the next room. Further guiding the player in this room is this. So this is a spinning blue hologram. Again, the blue to fit in with the cinematic universe's own use of the color, but it's on top of this pad. Obviously, it's sort of indicating to the player that they need a box that will open this door here. It's fairly obvious what happens here. You have to put the toy here and use this ramp to get to the button. And then this is a collectible item that the box will spawn from there, and the player will have to put it onto there, and they can follow the chevrons into this room. So obviously you can see how it's fairly similar to this room in the way that it's been incorporated into the world of Wally. The architecture is being used in a fun way to simulate interactivity between the toy and the environment, especially when you have to get the toy from here to here without being able to get down and just push it and drag it around. You actually have to do it up here, which is quite a challenge for the player. Similarly in here, the architecture has been used not only to show the Wally world, but also in an interactive way for the player to progress by using the toy. So when you come into this room, gosh, you can see the chevrons here again, but this room is a bit more in line with the Wally world. That's because these are supposed to be a storage facility, and this is just a miscellaneous room before you get into actually a main corridor. This is actually where this is supposed to be a packing facility, but it's also a corridor. You can see these are sort of cameras. This light will actually follow the player, so if the player comes near, it will follow them. And there's another one here. These are robots, and this flashes this sort of red light. It's sort of because of, oh gosh, I forgot her name, but the main bad character in the Wally, she uses cameras to see around the ship. These cameras are that. This is more in line with the packing facility. This is because this is sort of like an airport security style wall where the stuff goes through in conveyor belts. That's what the blue symbolizes, as it's just a prototype block colours were chosen. So when the player comes through, they will see this. As you can see on the camera dolly here, it actually moves around so that when the player's going down here, they will have to see this. It will be in front of the camera. It sort of shows the conveyor belt in use, which will prepare them for this. It'll show them that this is actually a conveyor belt and the objects will move along it. So this is sort of just packages coming out of a system here and going into what's event. This actually just destroys the objects, and yeah, so the player doesn't have much option. They have to come down here, and they're led through not only the architecture of the environment. These are going in that direction. The packages, when they come on the conveyor belt, they're going down there. It's sort of sloped towards that way, and plus there's this blocking here. Also the camera dolly going down that way sort of leads them down there. So when they come down here, you'll see again this blue hologram box is showing them that they require a box. And there is actually a big red button here that they must press, and then that dispenses a box, and it's a little puzzle here. That box isn't supposed to be there, that's just for my reference, sorry. Anyways, yeah, so they are led down here. So this is obviously the blue again. The use of the robots in this particular part of the game is very in line with the outside of the Wally on the Axiom, outside the main sections on the Axiom. It's just incorporating that architecture again, where everything is sort of run by robots. You'll see the cameras and also this machinery itself, and it all is sort of that very sci-fi feel. This will open the door, and this is actually the end game here. That they'll be taken to a menu when they get into that room. But yeah, so as you can see, not only through the features inside the environment, but the environment itself, it's out in the Axiom outside that big central hub is defined by tight enclosed spaces, which are seen here. They aren't very big spaces, they are purposefully tight. You know, this corridor, it's not the biggest thing on the planet if you compare it to the other sections in the Axiom. And it's the player is a human, so it would be very new to them, and it's sort of supposed to be. But yeah, so a mix of the blue light in here as well to make sure that they know that this section's slightly different to this section, because this is a corridor. It's more of a used space, but this is more of a storage facility and a miscellaneous sort of room from one to the next. Yeah, so I think that's all I can really discuss on the architecture. Obviously, as it's a prototype, you know, not too much was added, because I don't want to take away from the fact that it is a prototype. But this is how the architecture is used. Before I end the video, I'm just going to double check that I've made sure I wanted to talk about everything. Yeah, so guided using chevrons and the direction of flow, and obviously things like the lights and the sparks and the UI system all shows the flow. And even here you can see the ramp points up, and it's the button here, and it all has a flow to it that the player can see. And I think that's it. So thank you for watching, and obviously I talk quite in depth about this in my documentation, but yeah, I think that's it. Okay, I shall end the video now. Yeah, so obviously no billboards were used, so obviously in check with the brief, yeah, there wasn't any just fads added in. It was all a good attempt at replicating a fairly unexplored section of the Axiom. So thank you for watching, and I'm sorry for rambling on a little bit. This is quite nerve-wracking. Anyways, so okay, thank you.